and the community. So again, I am your presenter for today, but I want this session to be interactive. So at some points, I'll be calling on you for some comments, some suggestions, and insights that you would like to share. Our session objectives will be the following. First, to list down the performance indicators required of a teacher using the NCBTS or PPST. Now, to give you a background, a short hint about NCBTS and PPST, this is a set of performance indicators used to evaluate and to assess the teacher's performance. Okay, like if my principal, if my school head would assess me, would evaluate my performance as a teacher for the entire school year, ang magiging basis niya ay itong PPST na galing sa NCBTS. I repeat, PPST is based from NCBTS. So NCBTS stands for the National Competency-Based Teacher Standards, while PPST is the newest version, which is derived from NCBTS, the latest version. This is otherwise known as the Philippine Performance Standards for teachers. Okay, that will be our first objective. Second, we are going to describe the skills and attributes of a 21st century teacher. Like at the moment, we are in the 21st century. And as we assume, as what we believe, the teacher from time to time changes. So what skills do we need to possess in order to keep ourselves abreast with the social needs and the learner's needs at present? Ang sagot dyan is the 21st century skills. So later we will describe who is a 21st century teacher. And last objective will be about the identification of classroom protocols and good practices to manage learners and other resources. So we will put emphasis on this because this is about classroom management. Mamaya malalaman nyo yung mga bagay-bagay na pwede at yung mga bagay-bagay na bawal gawin when you are conducting your classes. Okay? Now to give you an initial question. Miss Ira, can you give me something or one thing na palagay mo it's not appropriate to conduct in a class or not appropriate to do in a class? Like it violates the rights of the children, it violates the principles of teaching. Can you give me one violation na hindi natin pwedeng gawin inside the class? Just give me a guess. Yes, Ira?
Discuss ng teacher.
Again?
So, pag nagdi-discuss pa yung teacher, wag dapat magbibigay ng respect dapat sa nagsasalita sa harap.
Okay, that's one, no? That's basic. That's a common knowledge. Give respect to the one who is speaking. Tama o maling sinasabi niya. Kung mali man, correct it in a proper way. Pero wag mong ipapahiya. Again, the term is do not humiliate. Okay, learners inside the classroom. That's a basic protocol for a teacher. It's good. What about Miss Chico? Is there one thing that you know that should not be done inside the classroom? Hindi lang sa classroom, pati sa outside, bawal gawin ni teacher. But we are speaking of classroom management. I'm speaking of the school area.
Siguro po, sir, yung kapag nagtuturo po si teacher, dapat hindi lang siya laging nakaupo. Dapat po naglalakad-lakad po siya sa harapan. Correct.
But for some cases na pag yung teacher ay member, kaya PWD, okay, a person with disability, so there's an exemption. Okay, but for teachers who can walk, na pag nagturo naman nag-umpisa na ang klase hanggang sa matapos ang school year, nakaupo na lang, ay regaluhan na ng wheelchair yan, no? Grabe naman yung pag-upo niya. Again, your work as a facilitator is not to sit only. Okay, your work is to monitor, and that means roaming around. Madalas kasi nagkakaroon ng misconception that when you facilitate, you just give activities. No, you need to monitor and to assess. What about Paula?
Cursing po, sir, or pagmamura.
Okay, correct. Okay. Like what we've said, no, in our previous lessons, ang tingin natin sila is a model. Okay, a good role model. We are persons with high moral standards. So, tapos magmumura ka, tapos ituturo mo, bawal magbura. Okay? That's not, you should walk the talk. That's what I'm always saying. Walk the talk. What you teach, that's what you do. Because if not, you will not be effective. They would assume, the learners would assume, ba't ko gagawin sa teacher niya hindi niya ginagawa? Okay? We should be credible enough with what we teach. Okay? So those are the session objectives. And in order to meet those session objectives, we are going to discuss the following topics. Okay? Classroom management, the national competency-based teacher standards, and PPST. Okay? I just forgot to type. And Philippine performance standards for teachers, the newest version derived from NCBTS. And the last topic will be about the 21st century teacher. So let's start with classroom management. So classroom management includes the following aspects. So when you manage the classroom, first thing is think of the organizational plan. Second, think of scheduling. Second, think of record keeping. That's third. Fourth, about the physical environment. Fifth, think about discipline. And last, you should establish routine. So these are the different aspects of classroom management. So classroom management is not simply being inside the classroom, disciplining your learner, because that's what we initially thought about classroom management. It includes organizational plan, scheduling, record keeping, physical environment, discipline, and establishing routine. So discipline, pala, is just one among the aspects when it comes to classroom management. And I repeat, this is a requisite skill for all teachers. Okay? I call it skill because it's something that you hone, you develop as you go through with your teaching career. So every year you will gain experience and you will realize, you will discover some strategies on how you are going to facilitate and manage these different aspects of classroom management. So let's start with organizational plan. So under organizational plan, we have two types of class, either structured or flexible. So when we say structured, what do we mean? Okay, from the word structured, meron na yung plano, buo na siya. Okay, just like a structured interview, you have your questions. When you ask the questions during the interview, during the actual interview, just look at your question, follow your question. Then it is a structured interview. What about a structured classroom? Okay, we have numbers 1, 2, 3 here. Miss Chico. First is learning activities are well planned ahead of time and the procedures follow accepted rules and regulations established by the school. Second, there is allowance for movement, time allotment, and decision regarding undertaking and the learning activities. Third, students are given the chance to pursue special interests. Now, based on the description below, the three description, which do you think, which numbers or number do you think aligns with a structured classroom using context clues? Ms. Chico.
Sa tingin ko po yung yung number 1.
Okay, number 1, because we have the word well planned. Correct. That's under structured classroom. Learning activities are well planned ahead of time and the procedures follow accepted rules and regulations established by the school. So it's very strict when it comes to following these rules mandated by the school. That's why it's structured. Okay, your keyword here is plan. So just like when you create your lesson plan, you followed some guidelines given by the school, you are structuring now a plan which will produce a structured classroom. Okay, that's correct. Number 1 is under structured classroom. What about number 2? To which item can we classify number 2? Ira. Miss Ira? There is allowance for movement, time allotment, and decision regarding undertaking the learning activities. Miss Ira?
Flexible.
Your keyword here, Ira, will be allowance for movement. They can move. Okay? For time allotment. Okay? Allowance
Flexible.
for decision. Okay, correct. It's flexible classroom. Okay? Like if you create your plan, meron pa rin naman plan to. Okay? You still consider some aspects that might happen, okay, that to a point that when you plan, yung mga considerations na to are indicated. They may be hidden in your plan, but they are considered. Meaning to say, if it did not work, okay, let's say for instance, under the procedure part, the activity did not work and they did not respond very well with the activity, you have your plan B in your mind and you know what to do. You shift now to your plan B. You will not be strict with plan A because you know it's not working. It's not doing well. So you move to plan B. That's what we mean. There is allowance for movement, time allotment, and decision regarding undertaking the learning activities. Okay, that's what we call a flexible classroom. It gives the user, the implementer, the flexibility when it comes to decision making. Like for the curriculum that we are using at present, okay, coming from DepEd and CHED, we could add, okay, some course like in MQC based on their mission vision statement. They added theology as one of the courses, okay, offered in college. But in other schools, we don't have theology. Okay, so this is what we mean. They give the school, the college, the freedom to add and to make decisions regarding the curriculum. But there are, of course, I repeat, there are, of course, some parts which we really need to follow. Okay, like sa lesson planning, lahat ng parts na yun, all the elements should be there. You cannot be, it's non-negotiable. That's the right term. There are some things that are non-negotiable. Okay, another. For lesson planning, gumawa ka ng plan mo and then afterwards, while implementing it, merong mga nangyaring hindi naasahan. So you shift to plan B. Okay, na kahit wala dun sa plan A, yung plan B nasa isip mo, kaya siyang i-inject. You can integrate that as part of the plan. That's what we mean by flexible classroom. It gives you freedom to decide. Okay, it's not strict na kung ano lang yung nakasulat, susundin ko. No. Kung ano man yung nakasulat at hindi nag-work, pwede siyang i-modify on the spot. Okay, flexible classroom. Next, students are given the chance to pursue special interests. Again, your clue is given the chance. Yes, Miss Paula.
Flexible classroom, sir.
That's correct. So no need for further explanation because your clue is given the chance to pursue special interests. Like, you do not demand them to master something, or I mean, you do not demand them to be someone else. Okay, you consider their interests, you consider their needs when you write your plan. So in that case, you are developing a flexible classroom. Structured classroom and flexible classroom. Number 4, needed instructional materials are readily made available to ensure a smooth conclusion of the lesson. This is structured classroom. Your clue is readily made available, and then for smooth conclusion of the lesson. Like you already have your materials, okay, they are already planned, they are already sequenced, okay, depending on the time in which you're going to use these materials. Bunot ka na lang ng bunot, nakaayos na. That's structured classroom. Number 5, in this classroom, there can be spontaneous exploration and discovery. Obviously, this is flexible classroom because you adjust based on the needs of the learners. Again, adjust. It's adjustable. Okay, if it's adjustable, then it's flexible. Number 6, lesson plans are carefully prepared and strictly followed. Okay, obviously, this is a structured classroom. Okay, under flexible classroom, I repeat, I'm not saying that structured classroom is not good. There are some instances, just like for the philosophies, okay? There are some instances that we need to use structured classroom, and there are some instances that we need to be flexible. Okay, in which instances do we use structured classroom? Pag naghahabol ka na sa oras, okay? Ayan, kailangan planuhin mo talaga at sundin mo na yung plano mo. Okay? Ano pa? When you are giving activities, dapat naka-structure yan. Though you will give time allotment if they are still willing to do it, but it should be structured, lalo na kung naka-budget na yung oras mo. Baka sumobra, 1 week na hiningi nila extension, sobra-sobra naman yon. Okay? Kung humingi sila ng 1 day for adjustment, okay, fine. Okay? But for 1 week, that's too much. In that case, that's the time that you stop using flexible classroom. You shift now to a structured classroom. So it depends on the situation. It depends on the situation and the ability of your learners, plus the available resources in your school. Now let's dig deeper to flexible classroom. Under flexible classroom, we may use individualized approach. So this considers the individual ability, interests, and needs and favors setting up learning centers. Can you still remember our lesson in facilitating learner-centered teaching about multiple intelligences? Yes, Ms. Chico?
Yes po, sir.
Okay. What's the concept of multiple intelligences by Howard Gardner?
Pagkakaalala ko, sir, yung multiple intelligences, sa isang class, divided po sila. Like kung magpapa-activity, yung isa singing, yung isa sa dancing, then yung isa iba naman po.
Correct. That's an example of differentiated activity because you've learned, okay, based from analysis, based from interview with your learners, na meron magaling sa music, meron magaling sa pagsaya, meron magaling sa arts. Okay? That's why, ayun kasi ang description ng talino ngayon, no? Talino is not only about academics. It's not only about memorization. Okay? If you're good in sports, then you are intelligent. Kinesthetically intelligent. Okay? If you are good in music, then you are musically inclined. Okay? Then you're intelligent in music. That's what we mean by multiple intelligences. Okay? Like at this point, if you would assess yourself, Miss Paula, anong mga intelligences ang meron ka? Based from Howard Gardner's classification of intelligences.
Ano po, sir? Siguro po as of the moment, parang sports analysis. Ganun po, sir.
You are more on kinesthetic intelligence. Okay? Meron ka naman siguro ng verbal because you could express yourself.
Yes po.
You have that. What we mean here is we have different type of intelligences. So hindi mo na pwedeng tawagin na ang isang bata walang alam, hindi matalino. Ang varsity player dahil basketball lang alam niya, hindi na siya matalino. Kinesthetic when it comes to movement, to action, in that part, meron siyang intelligence. Okay? Those who are good in arts, ayan, spatial intelligence. That's S-P-A-T-I-L. Okay? Ano pa ba ang intelligence? About interpersonal intelligence. Interpersonal intelligence, like you know how to deal with people. That's an intelligence. Okay? People smart. Yung tinatawag na people smart. Okay? So if they have different needs, different intelligences, okay, different interests, different ability, therefore, when we approach them, it should be different. And how you are going to do it? By means of, one good technique is establishing or having learning centers in your school. Okay, may mga club nga, di ba? For sports club, math club. Ayan, math is another form of intelligence, no? Numerical. Okay? Meron pang, ano pa ba? English club. Okay? And then in the classroom, another example, we have different corners for math, science, sports. Ayan, it's a way to address this learning needs. So it's individualized approach. Again, yung sinabi nga kanina ni Ms. Chico na example is an example of differentiated instruction. That's also individualized approach. So hindi common ang tingin mo under flexible classroom. Yung common ang kailangan nila, no. Unlike in structured classroom, you give the same food to everyone. For flexible classroom, you adjust based on their needs. Next.
Sir,
Yes.
hindi ko po kayo naririnig.
You can't hear me. What about yung iba?
Medyo mahina po, sir.
Oh my God, parang ito yata ang MS. Ayan, narinig na?
Yan po, sir. Okay na po.
Opo, sir.
Okay. So, that's individual. Ayan, sige. Inform nyo kapag hindi nyo ako naririnig, ha? Baka salita na ako ng salita dito tapos nawala na pala kayo. Lalo na I cannot see your faces from my screen because I'm using the PowerPoint. Okay? Now, going back, individualized approach, again, if it's individualized approach, consider their needs. Now, for group setup, ayun, yung differentiated instruction na sinasabi ni Ms. Kiko. You can group them based on their ability. You can group them based on their interests. You can group them based on kung sino. Pero din yung grouping na ganito, ha? Like, in terms of grade, kunyari, yung pinakamagaling, group 1. Pangalawang galing, group 2. Based on grade. Pangatlo, group 3. Group number 4, yung magagaling din naman, pero sila yung, in terms of number, nasa dulo. That's possible. Why? Because you want to know who among this, what we classify as low-performing learners, will stand as leader. Kasi sila-sila na lang, no? Ang nandun, they cannot rely from the others who are in the other group. So, somebody will stand as a leader and somebody has to stand as a leader. Okay, that's what we mean. That's possible. Pwede din naman yung mix sila. Like, magagaling i-delegate mo as leaders per group. Okay, that's possible. But again, you should differ when it comes to grouping. Okay, that's what I'm saying. Kailangan pa iba-iba. Give them a chance to meet each other. All of them. To work with all of their classmates. Hindi yung kung ano na lang yung cleaners na nakasulat dun sa gilid. Like Pante cleaners, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Up to the end of the school year, pag nag-group ka, yun na lang tinitignan mo para hindi ka na mahirapan. No. Okay? Differentiation when it comes to group setup. Okay? Question so far? Do you have questions so far?
Wala po, sir.
Sagot kayo. Kami wala na ko pala. How does grouping facilitate learning? Again, in our EDUC 105, good thing nandun kayo, no? In grouping, they learn from each other, di ba? Social constructivism. They learn by means of interacting. They act and interact with their group mates. Okay, so teacher is not the sole source of information. They could be resource persons for the other students or learners in the classroom. So that's the answer to that question. Now, when you do flexible classroom, make sure that it's a combination of individualized and group setup. There are some points na kanya-kanya sila ng trabaho. There are some points that you are going to group them. Hindi yung puro group ng group every day. Okay naman, puro individualized approach every day. It's not. It will not be good because they will be having the same from day 1 up to the last day. And okay, the term here is nakakaumay. Okay? Give them a chance to work with a different environment, with different people, for them to be excited. Okay? Pero dito sa klase na to, wala tayong choice, no? Kasi kayong tatlo lang. Okay? I-group the ko pa pag So pag nag-group activity tayo, automatic kayo ng tatlo unless you would like your parents to join you in your group. Okay. Ang kagandahan dito, kayong tatlo, so pag nag-grouping tayo, hindi na ako mahihirapan. Okay, group number 1, kayo ng tatlo. If it's individual approach, kayo na rin tatlo. Okay? Swerte kayo, no? Kasi tatlo lang kayo dito. Pag hindi pa naman kayo natuto sa teaching profession, ewan ko na lang. Sa araw-araw na kayong lalagi yung tinatawag ko. Okay? We don't have any other choice. Ngayon, kung ayaw niyong matawag, tawagin niyo yung magulang niyo, itabi niyo dyan. Silang pasagutin na. Proxy. Okay, moving. The advantage and disadvantage of structured and flexible classroom. Since structured classroom is strict, there's no space for decision making. Okay, for plan B. Unlike flexible classroom. Ang flexible classroom naman, ang advantage niya, you can adjust. Okay, depending on the needs. Ngayon, baliktarin naman natin. What's the advantage of structured classroom? You finish on time. Okay? Because you planned, you followed it. Okay? It's carefully planned. So therefore, if you are going to use structured classroom, it should be carefully planned. Okay? You should craft the plan based on your experience, based on the opinion of the experts too, with a lot of considerations before implementing it. Okay, para maiwasan yung mga problema. So you will not have problems also. Kasi nga, if-follow mo yun very strictly. Okay? And sometimes, I repeat, there are some points that we need to change the plan. So for structured classroom, siguro yung mga expert or experienced teachers, okay, they could use a structured classroom because they already know what to do. Or their plan is already adjusted. Kumbaga, hindi pa na-implement, na-adjust na nila based on their experience, based on how they foresee what will happen. Okay, yun ang advantage ng structured classroom. You finish on time. While for flexible classroom, kasi naman, ang disadvantage, since you give allotment or adjustment to time, when it comes to activities, humahaba yung oras. There are some points na tumatagal kayo sa isang activity. But which one is good, which one is not good? Wala. Both are good, depending on how you use it, depending on your learners, depending on how you apply it. Okay? Actually, it says your good time management is the key to smooth flow of planned activities, of course. Kapag wala kang plano, wala. Kaya nga, planning is already making half of the success. Okay? So when you schedule yung oras, kaya bakit maraming na-stress na teacher? Okay? Bakit maraming teacher na nag-uwi ng trabaho pa sa bahay? It's because they don't know how to schedule. Okay? O sa inyo na lang, sa mga estudyante, bakit maraming estudyante ay nagka-cram bago yung exam? Because they did not schedule their activities. Okay? So scheduling is really very important for you to be efficient in your job. Okay? For you to be effective in what you are doing. Kasi pag naipon lahat ng trabaho mo sa isang araw, quality will suffer. So which activities must be scheduled? Number one, the daily lessons, of course. Okay? Like that's why we write our lesson plan. Okay? And in your lesson plan, may time allotment pa. Prior to the opening of classes, ayan, meron ka ng budget of work. Kung anong mga target competencies in the first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, and fourth quarter. Okay? These are already scheduled. So you will be guided in the entire school year. Next, parent-teacher conference after classes. Again, I've noted after classes. Do not let the parents visit or parental visit to school disturb your classes, because once you conduct your classes, it's a time intended for you to conduct your classes. It's intended for your learners. Ngayon, bago mo papuntahin ng magulang, anong gagawin? I-schedule mo yan. Gawa ka ng letter that the parent is requested to come over to school at this time. Okay naman during parents meeting, if you would like to air some concerns, sabihin mo sa mga magulang, you come on this time. Kaya sa vacant period mo. So ang vacant period mo is 10 to 11, ayun, doon mo sila papuntahin. Pag meron po kayong concern and you plan to visit the school, pumunta po kayo ng 10 a.m. up to 11 a.m. Yun po ang free time ko. Okay, so you should be here at 10 to 10:30 para makapag-usap po tayo about your concern. Hindi yung nagkaklase ka tapos iiwan mo yung mga bata unless it's urgent and an emergency. Okay, hindi yung pwede, kunyari emergency, may nangyari sa bahay, i-excuse mo na yung bata. Sorry po, mamaya na lang pagkatapos po ng klase. May mga instances that we need to consider that. Okay, so that's another activity that we need to schedule. Next, working with other teachers during occasional events. Huwag kang attitude, no, kasama sa schedule niyan. Hindi lang ang trabaho mo ay sa loob ng classroom. Part of your job is to be a committee, okay, a member of the committee when it comes to school events like feeding program, nutrition month, Banuang Wika, alam nyo na yan. And nag-aral naman tayo, no? You went to school in elementary, in high school, you have seen the different school events. And sino ang punong abala? Of course, the teacher. Next, preparing new teaching devices is part of your schedule. Eto. Sir, bakit merong mga teacher na nag-uuwi ng trabaho? It's their choice. Okay? But I repeat, for teachers like us, regularly, meron kang isang vacant period. Okay? Bibigyan ka ng school ng vacant period. Huwag mo na i-chismis yun, no, sa katabi mong teacher na pag-uusapan nyo lang naman ay yung teleserye na pareho nyo naman pinanood kagabi. Okay? Yung K-drama na pinanood nyo na pareho naman ang nangyari sa screen nyo. Hindi naman nabago yung version dun sa screen nyo. O, tapos ngayon magre-reklamo ka, ang daming trabaho. Schedule it. Everything has a schedule. Okay? Advanced requests for supplies and materials for the week's lesson and learning centers. It's also an activity to be scheduled. Supervising students along the corridors and school ground or while eating in the canteen. Wow. You also need to schedule that. Okay? Now, Sir Kailan, this usually happens before introducing your first lesson. So it's during the orientation part. Like you teach them the basic conduct that they need to manifest when they are in school. Like how to use the CR, how to use the canteen properly, how to go out, going to the flag ceremony, going to the covered court, how to go back to the classroom. Everything should be scheduled until such point that they already established the routine. They already know the discipline. They already know the conduct. So it becomes automatic. Again, ini-schedule yan. Hindi lang pwedeng i-assume mo na kaalam na nilang gawin. Always remind them, lalo na pag elementary at high school, no? They need assistance. So again, schedule that. Now, how can we save time? You schedule everything, and do it as planned. That's the way to save time. How to avoid repetition of work and wastage of time and effort? You schedule. That's the answer again. Okay, if you schedule, if you plan for your schedule, if you analyze very well the activities, the sequence of activities in your schedule, you will not waste any time. Always schedule a time for yourself, of course. Okay? Eto ha, I would advise you early at this point. Pag naging teacher na kayo, you will be bombarded with too much work. Huwag kayong magpapalunod. Pag time, pag weekend, okay, Sabado, Linggo, it's for yourself, it's for your family. Stand it there. Okay? Do not deprive yourselves of this, right? Pag bakasyon, magbakasyon kayo. Huwag kayong pabibo. Magpakabayani. Okay? We need that to recharge because we cannot give, okay, our full energy if we will not recharge. Kung ang cellphone niya namamatay pag nade-drain, no? Paano pa ang teacher? Na tinuloy-tuloy mo. Nagpakabayani ka, no? Masipag ako, bakasyon, magtatrabaho ako. No. You need time for yourself, rediscover yourself, and then go somewhere, visit these places you've never visited, so that when you go back to classroom, you could share first-hand experiences. Hindi nakikita mo sa libro, ang kunyari Cebu, nakikita mo sa libro, ang Mayon Volcano, tapos magkukwento ka sa bata. Alam niyo ba na ang Bulkang Mayon ay hugis apa? Kung makapagkwento ka, parang nakita mo na talaga. Okay, pero kung napuntahan mo na at nakita mo, ang informasyon na ibibigay mo, the information which you will give is first-hand. Hindi ka lang nakabase sa libro. Na pag tinignan pala ang Mayon, hindi na pala siya parang hugis apat. Meron siyang imperfection. It's not perfect cone shape now. Okay, pero ang nasa libro, perfect cone shape. No? Siguro madadagdag mo doon, depende sa angulo kung nasaan ka doon sa lugar na yon. No? So there would be additional information. Plus, makapamasyal ka pa, di ba? Save money for your self-relaxation. Okay? We need to relax. Okay? Because I repeat, kung pupunin mo yung sarili mo ng trabaho, lalo na sa teaching, mapupuno ka until such point na susuko ka na lang. So if it's vacation time, swerte tayo, meron tayong bakasyon, yun ang kinaiinggit ng ibang employees. No? Summer, okay, pero na-move na siya ngayon kasi because of pandemic. But usually it's summer from April to May. Yung panahon na yan, make sure na sa 2 buwan na yan, may napasyalan ka. Okay? At pag Sabado, Linggo, allot it with your family or to yourself. Okay? That's an agreement. I require you to do it for yourself. Okay? Ayun naman yung panahon para isipin natin yung sarili natin. Okay? Time to recharge. It's also an activity that you need to schedule. Okay, tips to maintain good time management. First, schedule all activities with corresponding time allotment way ahead of time. Example, lesson planning. Ilang oras ang i-allot mo. Hindi yung lesson planning bukas gagawin. Ano ang tendency pag ganon? Pag sinabi mo bukas mo gagawin, hindi mo alam kung anong oras, miras na yung bengi. May pagawa. Hanggang kayo mag-desisyon ka, you will decide bukas na lang ulit. And that's true. Ako malarm, even kung pa mag-review, gagawan nyo yan. Do not lie to me. Yung bukas na lang, mamaya na lang, hanggang umabot na yung oras. Umabot na lang alas 12 ng gabi, magdedesisyon ka, ay, matutundo na ako, bukas na ulit. Ganingaldo. Okay? So, schedule all activities with corresponding time allotment way ahead of time for you not to cramp so that you could review and quality is always considered. Provide enough time for everything you expect to happen. Okay, that's self-explanatory. Next tip, avoid rushing. Quality may suffer. Ayan. So schedule everything before the time, ahead of the time. Anticipate difficulties or failure on some operations. And this is true. If you will schedule, you anticipate some possibilities so that in terms of time management, baka dito sa activity na to, kahit ito lang yung araw na binigay ko, paano kung kulang tong araw na to kasi ganito yung type of activity na ibibigay ko sa bata. It's very complex. Kasi last year, parang nagkulang yung one hour. So I will extend it into 3 days. Ayan. Okay, 1 hour per day. So in-extend mo into 3 days. In-schedule mo, you assume. So you become flexible when it comes to your schedule. Okay? Huwag naman masyadong dikit-dikit na 9 to 10 itong gagawin. 10 to ganyan itong gagawin ko. Paano kung hindi mo natapos yung isa? Diba? Allot appropriate time. Kaya alam nyo naman ang kapasidad nyo, your